Most people think you need $1 million to become financially free, but the truth is far more dangerous than that. There's actually a specific amount of money that completely changes the way your brain works. From that moment on, your stress, fear, decisions, even the way you see life starts to change. And here's the shocking part. Scientists say that once people reach this number, their brain slowly stops operating in survival mode. Suddenly, car repairs don't feel terrifying anymore. Losing a job doesn't feel like the end of the world. And for the first time, people start living with confidence instead of panic. But here's the biggest twist. This number isn't $1 million. It's not even $100,000. It's much smaller than that. Yet, most people spend their entire lives never reaching it. And if you don't understand the psychological secret behind this number, there's a good chance you'll stay trapped in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle without ever realizing what game is actually being played. By the end of this video, you'll understand why people who reach this financial milestone never think about money the same way again. Most people think becoming a millionaire is what changes your life. They believe happiness, confidence, and freedom are reserved only for rich people. But reality is completely different. The real psychological transformation begins the moment someone sees a 5-figure savings balance in their account for the first time. Because from that moment on, the brain slowly starts escaping survival mode. When you have zero savings, every small expense creates fear. Even at the grocery store, your mind is constantly calculating. If I buy this extra item, will I have problems at the end of the month? Friends invite you out to dinner, and you make excuses because a single meal could destroy your weekly budget. That's paycheck-to-paycheck life. At that point, you're not controlling money. Money is controlling you. But imagine that same person suddenly having $10,000 sitting in their account. Now the grocery store feels different. Every little purchase no longer becomes a survival calculation. A check engine light no longer feels like the beginning of financial collapse. A broken phone doesn't trigger panic anymore. This is the moment financial stress slowly starts disappearing. Scientists have found that financial insecurity increases cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. That doesn't just mean you feel worried, it means your entire body enters stress mode. Sleep gets worse, patience disappears, focus becomes weaker. Small problems start feeling overwhelming, but the moment people feel financially secure, their brains begin operating differently. That's why an emergency fund isn't just money, it's mental peace. The most interesting part is that most people never even spend their emergency fund on emergencies. Because the real power isn't in spending the money, it's in knowing the money is there if life goes wrong. That confidence changes people. When you have savings, you stop making desperate decisions. You don't stay trapped in toxic jobs just because you're terrified of missing a paycheck. You finally have the courage to invest in yourself. Maybe you buy a course, learn a skill, or start a side hustle. Because now your brain isn't focused only on survival, it's thinking about growth. And that shift is the biggest difference between a poor mindset and a wealth mindset. A lot of people think rich people are simply smarter. But many times, the real difference is just that they have breathing room. Imagine two people. The first person earns $10,000 a month but spends everything. The second person earns only $3,000 a month but consistently saves money. From the outside, the first person looks more successful. Expensive car, fancy clothes, luxury restaurants. But internally, they're constantly under pressure because their lifestyle is chained to their income. Meanwhile, the second person may live a simpler life, but they have control. And in the long run, control is far more powerful than income. That's why $10,000 isn't just a number. It's proof that you've started changing yourself. Because honestly, the hardest part of saving money isn't the money itself. It's identity. Most people treat saving like punishment. They sacrifice for a few months, become frustrated, and fall back into old habits. But financially strong people turn saving into a lifestyle. They stop seeing themselves as spenders and start seeing themselves as builders. And once identity changes, decisions start changing automatically. Saving your first $1,000 feels brutal because your old habits keep pulling you backward. Every small thing demands instant pleasure: a new phone, online shopping, eating out, subscriptions. But as your savings grow, your brain begins experiencing dopamine differently. Before, happiness came from spending money. Now happiness comes from watching your account balance grow. And that's the dangerous moment where someone can become financially unstoppable because they begin valuing long-term freedom over short-term pleasure. And freedom isn't just about money. Freedom means, if something goes wrong tomorrow, I won't collapse. That feeling creates confidence. That's why financially secure people perform better in interviews. They don't desperately need the job, so they negotiate better, search for stronger opportunities, and take smarter risks. And, ironically, the world often rewards confident people more. That's why savings can indirectly increase your income too. Now, understand another psychological truth. When someone lives under constant financial stress, their brain loses the ability to think long-term. Their entire focus stays trapped in immediate survival. That's one reason financially stressed people sometimes make bad decisions. Their brain isn't thinking about the future, it's thinking about surviving the next few days. But when you have an emergency fund, your brain finally begins imagining the future for the first time. Retirement, investing, business, passive income, these ideas only become exciting when basic survival feels secure. And that's exactly why $10,000 is such a powerful milestone, because that amount can handle most common emergencies. Car repair? Covered. Medical bill? Manageable. Sudden job loss? You still have a few months of breathing room. That means most everyday financial disasters can no longer destroy your life. And that psychological safety creates mental freedom. But there's also a dangerous trap here. The moment many people save a little money, they immediately start upgrading their lifestyle. Bigger phone, better car, expensive clothes, and the cycle starts all over again. Smart people build a foundation before they build a lifestyle. Because real wealth isn't what people can see. Real wealth is what protects you from panic. Imagine two people sitting in the same restaurant eating the exact same meal. From the outside, they look identical. But internally, the difference is massive. One person is secretly stressed because their credit card is almost maxed out. The other person is completely relaxed because they have an emergency fund waiting in the bank. That invisible difference determines the quality of life. Money isn't just for buying things. Money can also buy peace of mind. And perhaps the most powerful part of reaching $10,000 is realizing that wealth building isn't magic, it's consistency. At first, saving feels painfully slow, but eventually the compound effect begins. You start making smarter decisions. You notice useless expenses. You recognize better opportunities. And slowly, your entire financial identity changes. Then one day, you look back and realize the biggest transformation wasn't your bank balance. It was your mindset. Problems that once felt like disasters now feel manageable. Decisions once driven by fear are now driven by confidence. And that's the transformation most people never experience. $10,000 won't make you a billionaire. But it gives you something millions of people never truly have: breathing room. And sometimes, breathing room is all it takes to completely change a life. And once people experience that breathing room for the first time, something strange starts happening. They stop obsessing over looking rich and start focusing on becoming financially unbreakable. Because when you've spent years living one emergency away from disaster, peace becomes more valuable than luxury. Suddenly, impressing strangers with expensive purchases doesn't feel nearly as important as knowing you can survive a crisis without falling apart. That's the moment priorities begin to shift. Before savings, people often buy things for emotional relief, stress shopping, impulse purchases, expensive nights out. All of it becomes a temporary escape from financial anxiety. But once financial pressure starts disappearing, the need for those emotional distractions weakens too. You no longer need to feel rich for a few hours because you finally feel secure in real life. This is where many people accidentally unlock a hidden superpower: patience. Modern society trains people to chase instant gratification. Buy now, pay later, upgrade immediately. Everybody wants the reward first and the consequences later. But saving money rewires your brain in the opposite direction. It teaches delayed gratification, the ability to sacrifice temporary pleasure for long-term freedom, and that single skill quietly separates financially successful people from everyone else. Because wealth is rarely built through one giant moment, it's usually built through thousands of small decisions repeated consistently over time. Think about how different your life feels when every paycheck instantly disappears. The moment money arrives, it's already owed to rent, bills, debt, subscriptions, groceries, and payments. There's no feeling of ownership. You work hard, but the money never stays long enough to create security. That cycle slowly destroys motivation because it feels like you're running on a treadmill that never stops. But when savings begin growing, something changes psychologically. For the first time, money starts staying with you. Instead of every dollar immediately leaving your life, some of it remains behind as protection for your future. And strangely enough, that small shift creates hope. Hope is one of the most underrated financial advantages in the world. People who feel hopeless often stop trying, they stop planning, they stop believing improvement is possible. But once someone sees their savings growing, even slowly, they begin believing they can actually change their future. That belief creates momentum, and momentum changes behavior. Suddenly, they start paying attention to financial habits they ignored before. They compare prices, they cut unnecessary expenses, they think carefully before making purchases, not because they're becoming cheap, but because they've finally connected their daily actions to their long-term freedom. Another thing nobody talks about is how financial stress changes relationships. When people are constantly worried about money, they become emotionally exhausted. Small disagreements become bigger. Patience disappears faster. Anxiety quietly enters conversations, decisions, and even family dynamics. Many couples don't actually fight about money itself. They fight about the stress money creates. But financial breathing room changes emotional stability too. When survival pressure decreases, people often become calmer, kinder, and more emotionally available. It's hard to be fully present with people you love when your brain is constantly calculating bills in the background. And here's something incredibly important. Reaching $10,000 doesn't mean your problems disappear forever. Life will still hit you. Emergencies will still happen. Unexpected expenses will still show up. But the difference is that those problems no longer feel like the end of your life story. They become situations to handle instead of disasters to fear. That psychological difference changes everything, because confident people solve problems faster than panicked people. Fear clouds judgment. Security creates clarity. This is also why financially secure people often appear luckier from the outside. But many times, it's not luck at all. It's preparation. When opportunities appear, they're ready to act. Maybe an incredible business opportunity shows up. Maybe a dream job requires moving to another city. Maybe a once-in-a-lifetime investment becomes available. People living paycheck to paycheck often can't take these opportunities, even if they recognize them, because survival leaves no flexibility. But the person with savings has options, and in life, options are power. They're no longer relying on motivation. They're relying on identity. And identity is powerful. A person who sees themselves as financially responsible behaves differently automatically. They don't need constant discipline anymore because their habits begin aligning with who they believe they are. That's why real financial change rarely happens overnight. It happens slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, until one day you realize your entire relationship with money has changed. At some point, you stop asking, "Can I survive next month?" and start asking, "How far can I actually go in life?" And that question alone can completely change a person's future.